Second track day with the ND3 Miata. This is actually 7 days after the prior one, so the car's in the same condition, same exact mods. Main thing you need to know, stock suspension. We have Falken RT615K plus tires and a 215 section width. Shout out to Tires Easy for providing those. You can buy your next set of performance tires at Tires Easy. Use the link in the description and get 5% off your next order. We're rocking Konig Hypergram 17x8 wheels in bronze, G-Loc R10, R8 brake pads, and the rest of the mods you can find linked below. We're on the first session, first lap of the day, and you'll notice I have a passenger. That's because we're running with Lightspeed track events, and if you're interested in attending one of their events, use the code JABAL for $25 off your next track day. Mario here is one of the coaches with Lightspeed, and he's doing a checkout ride with me. And checkout rides are done to essentially sign you off to say that you know what you're doing and you're competent around a racetrack. The reason being, I am trying out to become an instructor myself. This is part of the process of being tested if you want to be an instructor yourself. So even though I do instruct with multiple other organizations, each organization will have their own criteria to make sure you are qualified. So the first thing was the checkout ride, and then later on in the day, he acted as if he was a student who needed a lot of help, and then I acted as the coach for him while I was sitting passenger and he was driving. Mario is an actual professional racing driver with many years, more than 2 decades of experience, so he's a proper coach. I generally serve as an instructor, which means I can help intermediate drivers go faster. Mario giving me some claps because he likes the exit of carousel, it looks like. But I tend to focus on more beginners and intermediates, get them acquainted with the line, the track, safety, all those things. And if they're more advanced and they want to really shave off a 10th here or there, then going to a more experienced coach, not an instructor, but a coach like Mario is better suited. What you're going to notice is that the lap times today versus my first ever track day, which you can find linked below, it's not going to be as fast. And that's because I'm being instructed to drive at 5 or 6 tenths. But unfortunately, even later in the day when I started pushing, I was not able to best my prior PB, and I'll explain why that's the case and what you can learn from that shortly. All right, so 206, very slow. I hit a 159 the last time I was here. Again, we're not really pushing all that hard. And here, I'm not using enough of the berm. I can cut that corner a little bit shorter. Here, I'm learning that I'm not actually going wide enough to get maximum compression to then do a direction change left. So I learned that later because again, I hadn't actually reviewed the track or done anything between my first track day and this second track day. So this was done 7 days after my first ever track day here. This last corner, I tend to apex it a little bit too early. So I want to start working on that, dialing that in just right. Going down the carousel, going really easy here. But you can tell from the aim solo, we are 4 tenths quicker than the prior lap already. And then we lose it with a slower exit. So now we're only 2 tenths faster than the prior lap. I apex this first berm, which I should not be doing. I should be focusing on just the second berm because I kind of missed that apex. It's more important to focus on the second one, not the first one. So that was a mistake that improves in subsequent laps. I want to straight out the beginning of these S's right here as much as possible. Mario says I'm apexing these a little bit too early, but I don't know. I think that with my car with the lower power, you actually want to apex them a lot earlier than you do in a higher horsepower car. You can actually use the throttle to help settle the car there at turn 10, which is the high sphincter tone turn, because the wall is right there and it's high speed. Apexing this corner a little too early. Definitely apex that later. Now that lap was, about half a second quicker than the prior lap. And lap after lap, what I'm trying to show my passenger, and this is anytime you're doing a checkout ride, is you want to show that you have the awareness. So you need to know everything that's happening at the flag stations, the cars around you, have that track awareness. You need to be safe yourself. You need to be an advanced driver really to become an instructor. Have car control, so like that, when you have oversteer or understeer, do you know what to do and are you smooth with your inputs? That's an important thing. And one thing that Mario isn't doing here, but what I've been tested on previously, is having a conversation. And right here, Mario gives me a thumbs up because I apexed it correctly, whereas in the other laps, I was apexing it a little bit too early. They want you to push sometimes 7, 8, 9 tenths. and have a conversation about, what do you do for work? Or when did you move here? Or tell me about your parents, or things that are unrelated, because they want to see what is your brain capacity at. And this is something that I actually did a lot of in the operating room back when I was doing plastic surgery. So when I was in med school, I would be doing an away rotation. So you travel to another institution and you go in the operating room, you scrub in, and you do some like suturing and things like that. Yeah, there is a bunch of traffic in this group, unfortunately, which Mario's pointing out. Yeah, going really slow, excessively slow. Slow down to like less than 20 there. So because we're going so slow here, Mario's going to show a more advanced coaching tactic that you don't normally see.
Now that we're going slow, can I show you where I want you to go on the S's?
Sure.
I'll share them where we're, just go slow. Easy, easy. A little bit, stay on to the end. On the gas, on the gas, on the gas, on the gas. You come up there, then it'll go right into that.
Fine-tuning my line by guiding the steering wheel.
Yeah, that's a better line right now that you took. So you end up in the middle here as you're tracking out.
I want to get out of this traffic.
I'm really happy with you're really smooth. Obviously, you're a good, experienced driver. Really happy.
Thank you.
When I gave most of the coaches, I had complaints about how they trail braked and how they lifted off throttle and all that. I don't have those with you, so good job. You're gonna catch them again because you're so much faster.
All right, going back out, I'm pointing at the car that's approaching because I need to demonstrate during a checkout ride. Since they don't know how aware I am, I'm demonstrating that I am aware, I have the track awareness and the track comfort. Puts them at ease. Going back to the operating room, they would ask you to explain your research, and if you're doing research at med school, it's complicated stuff. So I do a wider line there. Mario gives me the thumbs up, he likes that. But it's the same exact mental test that they're doing to see what is the mental capacity you're operating at while you're working with your hands. So they'll have you suturing or knot tying while they're asking you complicated questions. But same thing, is your brain operating at full capacity, or do you have some headroom? Because that's showing them how hard you're pushing and if you have the capacity to do more. Because if you want to be a surgeon or you want to be an instructor on the racetrack, they want to ensure that you have the capacity and the mental bandwidth to do so. If you're barely able to drive a good line and can't do anything else, you're not ready yet to be an instructor. I keep playing around with different lines on the carousel. I haven't really found anything that I'm super satisfied with, but there is a much better line that I'll show you in another Miata later in this video. Catching up to one of our ND brothers, but this guy's in an RF, which actually has stiffer springs versus the soft top because of the higher center of gravity and weight. Here, coaching me to apex later. Finally, apex later, he's happy. I'm happy with the thumbs up. And this is a good reminder, don't focus on other people's lines. This Mazda Miata in front of us is also probably newer to the track and they have a pretty poor line. So if I were to mimic his line, it would actually make me much slower. So remember to focus on your own line. Only follow someone else's if you know that they're doing something correctly and you're trying to learn from them. Positioning myself so that when I get that point by, it's very easy to do so. Using the billboards on the left as brake markers. Not happy that I'm still trying to kiss the berm. The first berm, I should only be focusing on the second one because that's what's most important in terms of exit here and carrying more speed through the S's with a lower power car like the Miata. That is extra important to carry as much speed as possible into the S's. The Miata is less compromising. You need faster corner exit speeds because you can't overcome any mistakes as easily with power. Apexing that a little bit too early, can turn it a bit later, but again, need to keep playing around with it because as the, different cars actually do have different lines, depending on weight, horsepower, downforce, etc. Miata obviously doesn't have any downforce, it has low weight, low horsepower. Now we're gonna push a little bit harder on this lap, feeling more comfortable, feeling warmed up. You're gonna see me sawing at the wheel a little bit, getting closer to the edge. Can still use more berm there. Going wider there to get more compression. approaching turn 4, the corner that I struggle with the most because of the lack of visibility. Mario's happy with that. Now, one thing he brought up was smoothness. You're gonna see here, I make these little micro corrections and catch the tail, catch the car. Something popped up on the infotainment, but since I'm not operating at 1010s and I have the bandwidth, I'm able to click away and go back to the home screen because I don't want to see my my list of contacts there. Now, Mario and I are gonna have a discussion about one of the issues with this current session, and I want you to pay attention, and I'm gonna tell you why after.
This is low intermediate, right?
Yeah, it's high intermediate. Purple.
Man, these are pretty bad trains, so...
I know.
I mean, not right now, but like earlier in the lap.
It's hard to tell if people just don't pass because they're not getting a point by. I think, I didn't go to their download, but it's point by only, I think, in the first session.
I
So
think what
nobody
they
was
should be doing,
passing and nobody was giving a point by.
when they let people on the track, they need to give more space between vehicles too.
When what?
More space between vehicles when we're getting on track.
Yeah, but you know what? Then you lose track time waiting.
Fair.
People need to just point by or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if they gave you between this and that car before you went on, you'd be on them in like 3 corners, right?
Yeah.
They just need to either be in the right group
But I think
or point by.
by having more space, you give more of a chance for people to overtake point by rather than train. Because when a train happens, you know,
You can't get a run on.
it's gonna take a lot longer to get everyone past. Versus
Yeah.
if you just have 1 or 2 cars behind, you let them through and things keep flowing. I don't know, just an idea.
I think when you space people out though, if you space
A couple things to keep in mind. Number 1, keep an open mind because you can challenge assumptions and design better systems by doing so. Number 2, attend various track days because each track org does things differently and you can pick and choose the strengths and weaknesses to run things better. A few weeks after this event, I went to Laguna with Lightspeed and I spoke with the owner, shared some ideas as to what I would change in the org. That same day, about 5 hours after we chatted during the end of day staff meeting, he implemented 4 of my suggestions that same exact day, because if you think about things in a more systems level way, you get better outcomes.
Anyway, nice job.
Thanks.
I tried as hard as I could to feel if you were the transition between brake and gas, and it was very hard to feel it. I could feel it, which means you're doing a really good job of that. You're really smooth and assertive. So your driving technique and style and control and all that, it's awesome. But you know, I never had a puckery feeling like at all. So
Awesome, I
your driving is
appreciate
very, very comfortable and reassuring. One thing I noticed is when you're going fast and when you're going slow, you adjust your line a little bit. Like you have a different line when you slow down a little bit. I'm just noticing it. Impressive how well you know where you are and where you're going. Yes, sir.
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah,
Mario.
we'll talk about it later.
Okay, thanks.
All right, this was my fastest lap of the weekend. Not the 2-minute 0.86, but this lap that I'm doing right now. And it still wasn't my PB. All right, so first of all, here I'm now using more of the berm. That's good, I'm learning. But you can't always force a faster lap time. Sometimes it's the conditions. Here I'm going a little bit wider to get more compression. Didn't quite nail that the way I wanted to though. And I still am struggling to get this apex right. I apexed that too early there again. Now, I drove a GT4 RS on Chuckwalla twice. The first time, I was 5 seconds faster than I was the second time. And it was not the conditions because the owner was 2 seconds faster the second time, the second day, and I was 5 seconds slower. So I couldn't really figure out what was going on. I thought maybe it was sleep deprivation because the second time I was traveling in a way that was far more time constrained and I slept very late and I was having trouble sleeping and yada yada yada. It turns out that might have been a small contributing factor, but what I later realized is that my contact prescription had changed and I forgot that my distance vision was slightly more blurry. It wasn't terrible, it was only barely noticeable, although I didn't have 20/20 vision anymore. The reason I changed the contact prescription is because I was getting eye fatigue when working at my computer 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And I was trying out these new contacts to see if they would work better. But the issue is that I could not see as far as clearly trying to give him a point by, but he's a bit far back. And as a result, I didn't have the confidence to push that car as fast, and I was 5 whole seconds slower, which is an eternity. He broke a bit late, missed the apex, and we're gonna do a little switcheroo right there. He was a bit far back when I gave him the point by. He should have been closer if he wanted to pass, or he should have just ignored that pass, but whatever. And that's why here we're at only a, what is it? 2 minute 0.59, still a full second slower than my PB from the week before. All right, now we're riding with my buddy Alex in his ND2 Miata. It has aero and far more mods than what I have on my car. But more importantly, he has far better lines than I do in a Miata. So this is probably the best learning experience I'm having on this track day. He takes this line a bit differently than Mario suggests with regards to the compression. But I believe we're in the beginner group right now, so don't be surprised if we, in a Miata with a passenger, end up getting a point by from a 992 GT3. The aim solo positioning is very good for the driver, not great for the passenger. So I can't tell you what lap times he's hitting, but I think he was like 150 if I recall correctly on his flying laps, obviously not laps with traffic and such. Purposely not trying to kiss that berm, but kissing the berm right here and again right here to help him carry the most speed as he enters the S's. Really working hard at that wheel. The ND2 doesn't have the same steering feedback and precision as the ND3. Although part of that is maybe trying to saw out the wheel to understand what's happening at the front end, but I think part of that too is driving style. Now Mario earlier in the video was talking about smoothness, and I didn't really understand what he meant because I'm like, well, that's how everyone drives, but we all have different driving styles. And when you ride passenger with different people, you'll notice that. So Alex, he doesn't emphasize smoothness as much as I do, and smoothness to me maybe comes more naturally, or maybe something that I tried to focus on when I was first learning to drive, I'm not sure. But the steering inputs, the brake inputs, the throttle inputs, I can feel each movement more. And even sometimes when there's correction of oversteer, I can also get a bit, you know, not quite a tank slapper, but you know, a little bit jerky. Now, is that right or wrong? I think it's, if you can, generally you want to try to be smoother, but who am I to say, because Alex is way faster than me. So it's like, you know, I'm just sharing with you guys my learning journey as I'm trying to become a better driver and what I'm learning and picking up. So I remember sitting in the passenger seat of Alex, who, by the way, no shade to Alex, right? Alex is doing an awesome job. I don't think that Alex focuses on smoothness as much as Mario.
A true Sunday stroll. Oh, fuck.
But learning a lot here riding passenger with Alex, because this line is truly excellent in helping me become a faster driver. So kudos to him and his generosity. You'll notice that when it comes to taking carousel here, he tends to hug it towards the end. And at the beginning, it's almost like a V. So it's like almost like a double apex, not quite, but you start closer and you almost apex it, and then midway through the corner is your maximum rotation point, your MRP, where you slow down a little bit, you get it to turn more, and then you just sit on the throttle and it'll carry you out in a more natural way without you having to actually put much steering input in it at all. You'll notice here that he apexes this corner beautifully, and it's much later than what I have been doing. And I'm impressed that he's able to take turn one totally flat out, which I'm definitely not able to do in my car simply because I don't have aero, the same level of mods, you know, the coilovers, the wider and stickier rubber, etc. So riding passenger is actually giving me the itch to mod my car further. And again, learning a lot from his line. Yeah, apexing that just beautifully. That's what I need to be doing. So even something like a heel toe downshift, part of the reason why if you guys watch my videos on how to drive stick shift, part of the reason why you want to focus on doing it as smoothly as possible is that when you come to the racetrack, when you downshift, and actually even on the streets as well if you're driving in a spirited fashion, you don't upset the balance of the car. Because if you do it in a way that is too aggressive, or you don't rev match properly, or you lock up the rear tires, then you can actually throw the car sideways unintentionally. You can unbalance it. So that's one of the reasons why smoothness becomes something to focus on, but it's not the end all be all. I am smooth, but also really fucking slow on this racetrack, right? So I think all of us have things to improve on. None of us are Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton. Let me know what you guys think with a comment down below. Again, check out Lightspeed with coupon code JABAL for $25 off. Much love, and I'll see you all in that next one.